em Ecologia e Evolução. Essa é uma palestra extra da nossa conferência, mas todas as vezes que a gente tem uma pessoa de fora que está aqui, a gente aproveita essa oportunidade para ter uma conferência com o nosso programa, que sempre requer, né? O nosso programa de Ecologia e Evolução. E o Alexandru Stermin, a gente chama, né? Sandro, né? A gente costuma chamá-lo, ele já estabeleceu conosco uma cooperação internacional junto à UERJ, com a Universidade da Romênia, e esse já é o 4º ano de cooperação. Ele geralmente vem em fevereiro, fugindo do inverno europeu, que é bastante intenso, lá para aquela região da Transilvânia, onde ele mora, na Romênia. Né? Então, eu vou falar aqui algumas palavras sobre o livro do Santo. O Alexandru Stermin, ele leciona na Faculdade de Biologia e Geologia da Universitatea de Bolyaido, em Cluj, na Romênia, nos cursos de Anatomia Comparativa de Vertebrados, Neurobiologia e Evolução Cerebral, Etologia, Bioética e Ecologia Humana. Ele também possui bacharelado em Teologia, mestrado em Filosofia e um programa de treinamento em Psicoterapia Positiva. Ele participou de expedições na Sibéria, foi bolsista da Universidade de Leipzig, na Alemanha. Em 2018, ele ganhou uma bolsa do Programa Intercontinental de Intercâmbio Acadêmico e iniciou, então, a colaboração conosco aqui na UERJ, por meio da qual a gente tem termos de cooperação internacional, do qual ele é o pesquisador responsável pela Universidade da Romênia e eu aqui pela parte da UERJ. Ele está ativamente envolvido com popularização da ciência e conservação da natureza. Em 2015, ele contribuiu para a série Fauna da Romênia, de aves, publicada pela Academia Romena. Em 2017, ele publicou seu primeiro livro, Journal of Ornithologists. Em 2021, ele publicou Journey Around the World, Around the Human. Em 2022, Falling from the Jungle. Esses livros eles se tornaram best-sellers na Romênia, ele está entre os top 10 mais, e ele contribuiu também com artigos para a National Geographic, recebeu o Prêmio de Excelência na Universitatea de Bolyaido, por engajamento cultural e abertura para a comunidade em 2021, e o Prêmio de Excelência em Educação em 2022. Então, com vocês, Sandro.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming and for presenting us this talk today.
Should I close the door?
Yeah.
I feel more safe.
The program is inside.
Yeah.
Like always. Okay, so thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for inviting me and hosting me every year since 5 years. As Maria said, yeah, I'm really run away from the winter, because now in my village, in my city, there are minus 15 degrees, and it's raining a lot. Yes, so today I prepared something that it's very new for me, even if I'm teaching a course about human ecology. And also it's very new from the east part of the Europe, but it's starting being common in the west part of Europe. And that it's something maybe you heard about, it's called environmental humanities. And today I will try to show you how it's this concept about and how we can use it in conservation. So the presentation will have some points. In the beginning, for a short time, I will try to talk about humanities, what means, the context, and the short history of it to understand the meaning of the concept. And after that, we will talk about nature and humanities, the relation between nature and the humanities. And after that, about the environmental humanities, the concept that we are trying to understand now. And the problem about modern science. And we will see that today there are some problems in modern science that modern science can't solve them anymore without humanists. And then we will take a study case in Romania about human and nature conservation on this area of environmental humanities. And after that, I will tell you how my experience on Rapelgi from Ilia Grangi helped me to understand better the environmental humanities and how this experience helped me to make some other people understand what environmental humanities means. Also, if you get bored, you see here a line. So when this line is going like that, that means that the presentation is getting to the end. So you all the time on the way, you will know where are we and when I will finish. So what is what's the humanism about? Humanism is a philosophy of life. And usually it's going to establish some values and some ethical principles that helps humans to live together, peaceful, in a civilized world. So it's about, in the beginning, started like being something about ethics and values, and also in the central point there was the humans who try to live together, peaceful in this world. Of course, there is a kind of history of this concept and how it changed during the time. So it begins in the Renaissance in Europe. It's coming in the 15th, 16th centuries and was bringing the light about the Renaissance, because they also, we will see on the way, they use this concept from the Greek antique people. So in Europe, gets to the light in 15th and 16th centuries. And it was about ethics and values. After that, with the age of enlightenment, around 17th, 18th centuries, because we have also discovered the science and the technology, the humanists bring this kind of science and technology inside of its concept. And then, during the early 20th centuries, there was growing this concept around the world, from Europe to America. And today, in the last 21 centuries, the humanists, it's about well-being of human, about freedom, autonomy, and about progress. But what can we see here? So we started from the values of ethics and morals, and then we use science and technology inside to make a world a well-being place for humans and also for the progress. And where we are now, to understand this, I will take you with me in an expedition. It was the Romanian climate research expedition, the first expedition that gets through Siberia and back. We did that in 2018, and it was 1 month. We made almost 25,000 kilometers, and we collect samples from this way to see how the climate change affects that area. Why we've been in Siberia? Because here in Siberia, you still can find some places where there is no human impact. You still can find some places where nature is flowering and it was never touched by humans. And those part of that's a picture from Silvostepa. It's just the forest under the taiga. And also we've been in the taiga, and because in the taiga the summer is very, very short, you have some moments when the light is trying to breathe. And in this way, we found thousands and hundreds of thousands of butterflies who are trying to breathe in the middle of the taiga. You are never thinking that in the middle of such a cold forest, in the short summer, you can find these butterflies. What I understood that you see here the forest, the taiga. Forests have some very strong trees and species of trees that survive to minus 40 degrees. And that's right to very bad wind. So they're very strong. It's a strong forest. But in the middle of this strong forest, you can find these butterflies. And if you miss, you can kill them. So what we understand that the forest is not only very, very strong because of the trees, but have its sensibility because of some other features that is there. And that's nature. And when we interact with the nature, with the sense of the humanities tell us in the last centuries, we want progress. It's just the humanities was not about the nature, it was just about the humans and how they can grow and use the progress. And in the same place in Siberia, like 700 kilometers from this point, we have the progress. We have the place where the people are using the science and the technology in their own will and for their own progress. And that's destroy all of the nature. And that's not only in Siberia, that's all over the world. And what happens? In a kind of parallel world with the humanists. So the humanists came and put the man, the people, in the center of everything. And then destroy the nature, because they need progress. And in the kind of parallel system, we came up with the ecology. And it's coming this way of thinking that you don't put the human in the middle of everything, you put the nature in the middle of everything and above everything. And since almost 100 years, the ecology and the environment is trying to help the nature and it's trying to heal what humanists did to the nature. And today, to be honest, we realize that in a way it's working, in another way it's not working. Because it's not good to take only the nature and put it in the center of everything. And leave the humankind next to it. Because why? Because we, the humans and the nature are related. And what environmental humanities wanted to do is to bring the nature and the human in the main place. And it's trying to see the relation between the human and the nature and treat them from the same perspective. There is no man better than nature, and there is no nature better than man, because they live together and there is a kind of relation. And that's what environmental humanities wants to do. But why, in our days, it's so hard for the modern human to connect with the nature? And why, over 1,000 or maybe 2,000 years, it was this split between the humanist and the environmental, the humanity and the nature. And to understand that, we have to go further in the history, in the point where the European culture was born. Because now I'm talking about the environmental humanities from this area of European culture. And we have to go to the Greeks. And we have here Plato and Aristotle. And they were talking about this hypothesis of dualistic, of body and soul. And the Platon said that the soul, it's about the values, the ethics, and the art. And that's what makes us humans. The fact that different from all the other animals and all the other living creatures in the world, we have soul. And because we have soul, we can create ethics, we can have values, and we can make art. And because we have values, we can live together peacefully in the world. And because we have ethics, we can live peacefully in the world. So the soul is what makes us humans and make us different from the others. And also, there is the body. And the body is the instinct. It's the nature, the ones that we have to fight with. Because it's always trying to kill the soul and took it out from his values, from his ethics, from the art. And that's where the area where this find between the nature and the soul and in the human start. To understand this, I will take you in Greifswald. Greifswald is a city in the north part of Germany on the Baltics. And they have the oldest institute of ornithology in Europe. That was the place where I was studying for my PhD. And here in Greifswald was born Caspar David Friedrich. He was a painter. And he was painting. What he was painting? He was painting the philosophy of that time and the relation between the man and the nature. And we can see, if you look to his paintings, that you all the time find something. Yes, something like this. There is a huge cathedral destroyed, and around it you have the trees. This is real. It's near Greifswald. But he used it, it's Elden. It's a cathedral destroyed, and around it you have trees. But he used this in many of his paintings. Why? What he wants to say? He wants to say like that the cathedral, it's the symbol of the soul. And the nature is coming and it's destroying the cathedral. So the nature is bad. People thought in that time that the nature is evil because it's related with the instincts and want to take everything what is good inside us. And also he's having these famous paintings called The Monk. There is a monk by the sea. And what he wants to show is that the monk is the soul and the sea, it's the nature and it's the world. And it's something very bad and dangerous. And that's why you have to run away from the world and stay in the monastery and serve God to take care of your soul. So imagine how it was on that time when the people have this idea about nature. He also painted some other paintings, and as you can see here it's a dry spot, but he called this painting the heaven, because in his mentality and on the mentality of that time, you see the nature around it's with less light, and the heaven is the city, because the people have to protect against the nature staying into the city, because the city is the heaven. If I ask you now in this room where is the heaven, everybody will say that the heaven is in the nature, not in the city, and the city is the hell. So, but that's one of the most point when the humanists try to find what is the difference between humans and animals and nature, and it was the soul. And they were believed that the soul can create everything. And it creates the city where the souls can stay in peace. But if you are coming back in the history, we will see that people get relaxed with the nature. And then they start again to get in contact with it. And in the art, we will see in Renoir that the nature is always presented in a beautiful way. But in the main point of the paintings, there was all the time the humans. So nature, it's just something to make the environment beautiful. It's just to give an aesthetic. It's not about the nature. It's about the human being in an aesthetical place. But it was a step. I mean, they realized that the nature can be beautiful. Coming to our world, we start finding some paintings where it was only about the nature. And the people discovered the beauty of the nature and the landscape. And they use this in their paintings. But as all the times happen, there is all the time coming somebody who is trying to change the world and the view about the nature. And that's a Romanian artist. And he painted a forest. from Transylvania. And you have this painting. And if you look to it from a kind of aesthetic perspective, you see that the proportion are not quite good for a painting. It's like you see part of the forest, but also you see here a shadow. It's a shadow of a tree. And this shadow of a tree, it's the shadow of you, as you can see the forest. Because what he wants to do, he wants to make us feel that we are a tree and we are looking around the forest. So somehow people realize during the time that we are part of the nature and we have to behave like that. And that's kind the birth of the human environment in the humanities. Also, now we are going back to the science, and we will see that we have here Carl Linné. And Linné was giving the name of our species in Systema Naturae. And he said, Homo sapiens. All of us learn that sapiens means to be wise, the human who is wise. But in a note in Systema Naturae, Carl Linné said, sapiens means the one that can recognize itself. So in the moment when you look to a mirror and you know that it's you and it's not somebody else, that means that you're a human being. You can recognize yourself. But was coming a philosopher, Giorgio Agamben, and he was going further with the definition of Homo sapiens. And he said, the Homo sapiens, the humans, are the ones that recognize themselves in everything that's alive. And when you recognize yourself in everything that's alive, you became a human. Because you don't have just to recognize yourself like a narcissistic way in a mirror or in a lake. You have to recognize yourself in the lake without seeing yourself, seeing the lake or the nature. Yeah. And we think that's something new. Well, that's a way that the people were looking to themselves or to the nature in a fresh way, that they never did it before. And if we really want to see how was the people like hundreds of years ago, we are going in a cave and we are looking to the paintings. And we look to this cave, we will see here the European bisons, that they are all killed. So it's kind of hunting image. And we think that the people who create this, they were only looking to the nature, like they want to use it and to eat it, and everything was about hunting. And the people far away in the past, they didn't have this relation with nature. That's a story that we create now in a modern world to try to serve the nature. But there are also some paintings older than this. And if you look here, you can see a reindeer who is drinking water. And the proportion and the way that the behavior of the drinking water was catch here on the stone. And also you can see here a cat, a big cat, painted. That means that if you are an artist on that time, to create something like this, you have to stay and look to the animal and feel what the animal feels. And then, after you have that feeling, you go in your cave and you represent the animal. But you can represent it like this, you don't have it in your face. You have to remember everything and feel what it feels. So that means that we all the time have this connection with nature. And we know what it feels. Also, you have this painting. Trust me, it's something like this. And what you can see here, it's an elephant, it's a mammoth. It's like a female of mammoth that is touching a baby mammoth. And that's kindness. It's a way of mother taking care of the son. So somebody who realized this, what I think they thought was like, look, they have feelings like us. We're not different than them. And they were coming in the cave and representing. And also, what's the most beautiful one that I found? It's this, Antonio Gom. And it's a very oldest one. And as you can see here, it's a male of reindeer kissing a female of reindeer who is about to give birth. So here it's so much kindness, and there is so much love, and so much intimacy that the people realized that on the animals, and they took it and put it on the walls of the cave to stay forever. That means that environmental humanities, it's not something new. It's something that, as Agamben and Linné said, we have inside us. In the moment when we became human, we recognized in the other, and we realized that we are not so different than all the other living creatures around us. In 2012, somehow the environmental humanities ideas came up in the lab, and they appeared this article about why biologists should be interested in environmental humanities, and also they create a journal called Environmental Humanities. And here everything started, and people start talking about this and see how they can use it in different areas of environment. And now we are thinking, why we as a scientist, we need environmental humanities, or we need to study about humanities or humanities sciences. Why? Because during our history, since the Enlightenment area, science, what they've done, they were looking around the world, and they are trying to find a problem, and then they solve it. And that was science. They solve a theoretical problem, or they solve a practical problem with the technology. So in this way, we don't need humanities. Why we need that when we can resolve this problem? But what happens in the modern science? In the modern science, we have a lot of problems. Like one of the biggest is starvation. So people are starving all over the world. And then the science came up with some problem, some solution, like genetically modified organisms. You can use them to get a bigger crop, to get much more benefits from a bad land. You can use genetically modified organisms to feed people in Asia, like the golden rice. And in this way, you can save the lives. Also, we have another problem, climate change. And scientists came with the solution, like alternative energy sources. Or we have problems like epidemics. And scientists came with the vaccines. But this solution solved the problem? No. We still have, and it was a lot to fight about the NGOs. We have a lot to fight about the energy sources. And there is a lot to fight about the vaccines. Why? They can't solve the problem because something new appeared in the equation, and that's the society. So you have to cultivate the organisms that you modify, but the people are afraid about it. You have to use and invest in energy sources, but the people are afraid about it. You have to use the vaccines, but the people are afraid about it. And it's normal to be afraid. It's normal to be afraid, but you have to understand why they are afraid and how you can communicate with them. And that's why we need environmental humanities. Because that helps us, like a scientist, to go to bring the solution and go to the society and see what they need and find a way to communicate to them the solution that you found in their own ways. And how we can do that? When we are talking about the nature and the sustainability, we know that usually we explain to the people that, you see, there is this bird And this bird, it's very important for the ecosystem because it's a part of the network and keeps the ecosystem alive. And if this bird disappears, then the ecosystem will disappear too. And it's not good for us. That's the cognitive way that we explain to the people. That science know how to do it. They explain in a cognitive way what is good or bad for something. But also, humans, it's more than that. We are more than cognitive. We have like a philosophical way of thinking. We have an emotional way of involving. We have an experiential way, and also we need material to use. So what environmental humanities is trying to do, it's bringing all this perspective in the same point and trying to explore this perspective to save the nature and save the species of something. And for this, I will show you a study case made in Transylvania about how the humans are connected with nature, explored from this perspective, and we see what we found. From a material way, that's the first, like the cave with the bisons that we kill to eat. So we use nature from material, from our needs. And we have here agriculture and forestry, food, owning land, regional products. Also for the decorative art, artisanal food. So we use nature for the material, and we found this. In the experiential way, it's like, how do you feel related with the nature? What happens when you go in the nature? And it's about the frequency of visit, the passive recreation, like I'm just going in the nature and I feel good. Active recreation, like I'm working in the nature and I feel also good. So nature is something very good for me. And that's about passive recreation and active recreation. That happens a lot now with the pandemic. When the pandemic came and the people were not allowed to go in the cities, many of them get outside in the nature and they discovered the experiential way of the nature, how useful that can be for you. And also about the nature, many people are thinking to their own childhood because they were exploring the nature when they were child. So in this way, let's talk about this exploration. When you want to go near to a village, you have an ecosystem that you want to protect. And then you explain to those people how important is the ecosystem for the village. They will understand or not. You can tell them how they can take materials from that ecosystem, like doing tourism, but they will understand or not. But if you start talking to them about their childhood, about the fact that that place, it was an experience for their childhood, and they are related to that place, and they have to take care of that because in this way they take care of themselves. You can find a way to do it. Also, there is this cognitive way. It's not about what you know, it's also about how you grow up and what you learn about the nature. So we can use this and this cognitive way, but we are really good in this. So scientists are good in it. Also, we have this emotional part of exploring the nature. It gives us the sense of beauty, love for the nature, curiosity. And also, there is something that when you realize that you've grown in a place and you have to protect that place is becoming part of your identity. And if you lose it, you lose a part of your identity. So you have to keep that place to somehow keep your childhood safe. So that's also about emotion. And we have this kind of philosophical part of the nature, where the people are talking about sustainability and future. Usually, everything that we learn from a philosophical way, we learn from the future. It's like, think about death. We are all dying. And how we relate with this? We look to the nature and we realize that from the beginning, everything that is born has to die. Also, we learn about the cyclicity of the time. It's winter, it's spring, it's rainy season, it's analysis, and it's everything that we learn about the time, we learn it from the nature. So we explored this relation and we found out this part of the tradition and their environmental protection that came up from this idea of environmental protection. Yes, but that's happened in Transylvania. And now we're coming back here. And when I had the chance to go in Ilia Grande for 2 weeks, I meet Caio. And Caio was telling me something about his grandfather that knows a lot of things about Umbanda religion. And he was telling me about Gaboklo. And he said once, he told me, you're a Gaboklo. Because he said that Gaboklo are the spirits, maybe you know this, isn't it? Gaboklo are the spirits that live in the jungle. And they help, they know very well people, but also they know the nature. And they help people relate with the nature. They help them live together peacefully. When there is a problem with the nature, Gaboklo is coming and solving. When there is a problem with humans, Gaboklo is coming and solving. And I realized that this spirit, it's the spirit of the environment of humanity. Because knowing the same time the humanity and knowing the same time the environment. And I was so interested in this idea of Gaboklo that I started looking to see how it's looked like all over Brazil in some other places. So here, we have this idea of Gaboklo as a spirit, that it's dealing with the people. If I studied like some literature from this part of Brazil in the Amazon, people, they were thinking that Gaboklo, it's a kind of hybrid between indigenous and white people. So you see, I think what's this, to have a hybrid between indigenous and white people, is like you have somebody in the middle that knows in the same time the indigenous, but knows in the same time the white people that are coming. And they are trying to resolve their problems. So it's Gaboklo, it's something between two different worlds that helps them to live together. And also here in this area of the Mato Grosso, there are some tribes that the people name said Gaboklo to the ones that live on the border or some of some. They said that here you have the forest, and also you have the land where the people are having animals like cows. And the ones that are living on the border from the open land and the forest, they are called also Gaboklo. So this term is something between two different worlds that connects them. And when you live on the border of something, when you are a hybrid of something, that means that inside yourself, you have all of this information to know all the environments from both sides. And I think from the environmental humanities perspective, this idea of Gaboklo is very, very important and shows very well how everything is working. And after the experience in the jungle, I came back home and I started writing a book. And in the book it's called Fall Down from the Jungle. And in the middle of the book is this story about Gaboklo. And the book has 3 parts. It's what we've done to the nature, and it's about my expedition in Siberia. And then that's part of the book. And then it's about my experience in Ilia Grande and how I found the nature inside me, because it was the hardest thing that I've done in my life. Was the hardest, but was the most beautiful. And I realized that we don't know, but we have inside us some things that we never thought that we had them. And they just came up when you need them. It's the animal inside. And the animal inside that helps us to survive. But in the same time, it's the animal that helps you to see the jump. Because the animal is not something very hard. It can be hard sometimes, but sometimes can open your eyes in a way that you can understand things that you never understand before. And I didn't look at it like ayahuasca or something like that. It was just going into that. So I wrote this, and then the last part of the book, it's about what happens when nature is coming over us, like the pandemic. So it's something about the relation between human and nature. And why I named the book Fall Down from the Jungle? Because in Europe, we think that we fall down from the heaven. And people are on the earth because they fall down from the heaven. But falling down from the heaven is falling down from the jungle because the jungle is the heaven. It's the place where we were created. And we have the jungle inside us. And Gaboklu helps me to understand that and put it in the light that now everybody understands more or less how we are connected to the nature. What brings this? That helps a lot for the nature conservation because people that are trying to find their own Gaboklu. And they are trying to find how they can relate with the nature. And also, that's for environmental. But also for the humanists, it's something very new in Romania because it's telling about the Brazilian culture and diversity and the huge heritage that we have here. And I really think, and I'm also starting from a long time, myths and religions and stuff like that. And I really think that Brazil is having the most beautiful and diverse cultural heritage from all over the world. Because you have diverse tribes living here with their own culture. And then you have the Europeans coming. And then you have the people coming during the slavery from Africa. And they all bring here their own culture. And that makes Brazil a cultural place in the world. And I think if you are trying to find all the concepts that we have in Europe, you can find it here. Because somehow people put it with their culture in the end. So that was the way that I was trying to bring environmental and humanities together and do something. So just before coming here, I got an email that the book will be translated. So when I will have it translated, I will submit. On the other hand, let's see how environmental humanities can enrich the both ways. So what environmental humanities brings to us, to the people that are working in the environment. So it's an effort to enrich the environmental research with the conceptual vocabulary. We can take concepts from the humanities and put them and explore them in what means environment. And also how the environment is helping the humanities. It's making humanities rethink their ontological exceptionality. Ontological is like their own way of being. We are not so exceptional that we think. So it's not something that makes us humans. Because there are other animals that have ethics. There are other animals that have values. And there are other animals that make art. So we are not the only one. And in this way, bringing environmental humanities together, we will help a lot the environmental area, and also we will help a lot the humanities. And in this way, I think, we can help the nature too. You see, that's a photo of a butterfly on a flower. And I think that's the image that shows us what nature really is. So we have the butterfly, it's eating from the flower. In the same time, the flower is reproducing, helped by the butterfly. So the flower is helping the butterfly to eat until it's reproduced. And the butterfly is eating from the flower, helping the flower reproduce. There are two living creatures coming together and help one each other. with feeding and reproducing. And metabolism and reproduction, they are the main structures of the life. Nature means relations. We have to interact with each other. Even if we are animals or plants, we have to interact with each other. And interacting with each other and having this kind of relations, we can keep nature safe. And we are part of the nature. Also, we, as humans, are not living just for eating and just for reproducing. It's very important. Those things are very important. But we also have a different level of interacting with each other, emotionally, philosophical way. So if we bring these ways of interacting, like only the humanists have it, and put it into the nature, we see that they are part of the nature. And in this way, we can create relations, and we can make world a better safe, and a better place and more safe. So that was what I wanted to tell you. But for me now, the most important thing is that I'm here. Because I related with this place, not only because I'm coming here and I'm running from the winter. It's true. I tried to survive. I was a monkey created to live in the tropical place. I don't know what happened with me. But on the other way, I'm coming here and I'm relating with all the world from here and the culture in all those levels that I talked about. And that's why I think that talking about environmental humanities here in Brazil, in UERJ, in the lab, in front of you, that gives me a sense of meaning and makes me happy because that's the way that I'm interacting with this world. And because of that, I really want to thank you all of you for supporting me. I want to thank Maria that she all the time helping me to get here and do things. And also all of you that helps me to connect with the environment and with the culture from it, and going back home more happy and enriched. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sandro. Excellent. I had no idea when I invited Sandro to join my team to Rapel, there would be such this experience, because I asked beforehand if he would like to take part of the parcels or all of them. And then he thought and said, of course, all of them. And I said, he has no idea. No idea. And the only one in my team who said, I go in the whole parcels too. Caio. And then, so, Caio and Sandro in parcels in Rapel de Atilha Grande. My goodness me.
And there were 5 days where it was all the time raining.
Raining.
That's why you need help a couple of
Yes.
And it was such an experience in all senses.
Yeah.
I ended up almost rescuing one of my students that when I came there, he had no glasses. He was completely, because it was the first time he had this experience. And Sandro persuaded him to stay. When I got there, I came here and collected. I stayed here for one parcel, but I want to go to know if you want to come back. See, no, I don't want to come back. I will stay here and I do the rest of the work. And after that, he transformed. He was behaving in another way, but because Sandro told him that he didn't have his class, but he could handle to have his eyes, and he could have his Sandro could have his experience. So he just was so transformed after that he could manage to stay peacefully. And he was very happy to stay. So it was an experience for all of us. So for you, I imagine how much, because you gave all.
Yes, I fall in the jungle.
So I'm also happy to see this book, and I look forward for having this in English. So it says that Portuguese is not so different from Romanian, but I have to learn more how to.
It's also a Latin language.
Yeah, and they said that from all the Latin language, Romanian and Portuguese are really related in grammar.
Yeah.
When I first time came here in Rio, like 7 years ago, and I was walking on the beach, I had the feeling that everybody is talking Romanian, but I just can't understand. I forgot my own language, and now
Sometimes I forget that I'm speaking Portuguese, but he said, no, I understand.
but it's very hard to talk
Yeah.
because I'm dyslexic. It's hard to learn language.
So people, please, I'm sure we will be very happy to have questions. Please, if you want to interact with me.
So may I start?
Please, Annie.
Thank you very much for your speech. Very inspiring. I have been working with research and nature contribution to my program for the last 2 years. And when you plan for some concepts in humanity that could help us to understand our relationship with nature, and do you think that these concepts can be important? Because you didn't talk about it in all your presentation. That's something very interesting, because there is a fight. Oh, should we use ecosystem services, or should we use nature contribution to people? Nature contribution to people is a very concept to represent the relationship between people and nature, or we should use the concept of ecosystem services. But you talk about all these things without using concept. Without use, you didn't talk about the ecosystem services or nature contribution. People want to talk about it. So do you think that these concepts contribute in some way, or they make more noise about this discussion, our relationship? And which concept do you think that would be better to make it?
Yeah, so what I think about this concept, and I know that I didn't say, but if we are going from a scientific way, we as a science are trying to put things in the categories, and the concepts are the ones that are putting things in the categories. Because when you have a category, you understand what's that. Aristotle was the one start creating categories, and he said a category is something that brings to the light something. We need this concept to bring to the light something. But if I use this concept from my point of view, that means that I give the definition of the concept, and then somebody else maybe is using the same things but with another concept. But in the end, they are all the same. There is this fluidity that is going through the thing. Because look, if somebody is asking you, you're a biologist, what is life? And I will say, life, it's metabolism, it's chemistry. And then there will come somebody and ask a chemist, what is chemistry? And he will think, and he will say, chemistry is physics. And then it's somebody coming and ask a physician, what is physics? And he will say, physics is mathematics. And then will come a philosopher and will say, but you discover mathematics or you invent it. But now if you look, life is chemistry, chemistry is physics, we are trying to put everything in the categories to understand the world. But in the same time, we can start fighting one another. But in the end, if you take the category and you see the world connected, that's how you understand it. So we need we need these kind of categories, like to understand them in the beginning, but after that we have to connect them, to bring them all together, like the Gaboklu and the environmental humanities, because they are the same things. But we try to do that, and that's a defect of scientists. We need categories because that's the way we came in life. Aristotle, yeah, we organize it. As you know, who can tell us what's a species? We know it's hard to define. There is no definition for the species, but we use it. It's a concept that we use. But inside ourselves, we know that it's hard to make the point between the species.
After all the study, you have, what do you think that define as define Earth? I think you have-
What? Yeah, I know what I think is defining us like the
Yeah, you agree with some of Albert.
So what I think is like that. Yeah, I know, and I was thinking to that a lot. Because now I'm studying a master in psychoanalysis, and I'm doing my thesis of the difference from the human and animals. So I think that everything that defines us, like in a qualitative way, you can find everything, in a qualitative way, you can find in other animals and in other parts, in other species. What makes the difference is the quantity of it. So in a qualitative way, we are the same like others. How we differ, what the difference is in a quantitative way. So as all the other species are the same, they are different from other species from a quantitative way.
Tem uma aqui. There's uma question online.
Questão aí.
Marina Zaloar.
Is it in English?
Yes.
So all of you are.
So if I think that history of humanity and humanity have been periodized that advance of technology and yes, so it was what I said about how the human, they are using more technology and advance for the progress, and then they create this plague in the nature with with fauna destroying and forest, and now ecology appear to heal this plague. So yeah, I think that's why we are studying today this, because we are trying to heal in the plague that technology was doing, and that's how ecology appeared to put the nature in front.
Você vai passar as datas aqui. Não tenho conexão com ela.
Ela tá algum.
Enfim, enquanto isso, podemos partir para outro. Está aqui.
Thanks a lot for your really nice insightful talk. I was thinking about your last picture, the butterfly and the flower.
Yes.
You showed that relationship as an example that should be followed. However, I'm thinking, how could we place other relationships, negative relationships like predation, competition, or even parasitism that are also part of the nature?
Yeah.
But you didn't approach I mean, maybe I understood your perspective, but at the same time, it was a perspective very positive, I mean, of the nature. Regardless all the negative effects or relationships that we can face. So how do you think that we should include the relationships, or even, I mean, the pandemic, it's also part of the nature.
Yeah.
The virus.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it's how you see
Infanticide,
yeah.
or even some there are some apes that they organize themselves in groups to attack another group of apes, and they promote rape and killing, and I mean everything that we also do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Creative robbery of nectar.
Yeah.
Flower.
So that's so I think the question is how it's the bad things. What happened with the bad things in the nature? And there are some studies that are trying to see what happens with something bad it's coming in the environment. And the first bad things that came into the nature was the moment when a species killed another species. And imagine that was the world where the animals were like pluricellular, but they were just moving around. And in the moment when they start killing one each other, was the moment that something happens. The neurons appear. The neurons appear where? On the victims, to help the victims to survive. So that means that, and also when you make a study about something that is getting brutally in an ecosystem, the ecosystem is trying to evolve and help the victim to survive and to get on and on. So that means that the bad things are part of the nature. But usually the nature, somehow, it's helping the victims to evolve and to adapt to the bad things. There is so now in Romania we are facing a war in the border. And there are some philosophers and biologists that said war is good because war helps us to evaluate. It's like we people came together to make buildings and to build villages and to build cities to protect against the war. So war is something good. But at the same time, it's not like that because war is killing. And the ones who survive are the ones who find in themselves the way to be creative and fight against the war. So yes, if nature is nature, it's with good and bad, but in the way it's somehow helping the life to evolve and stay on the planet.
Yeah, understood. But even the words that I use, positive, negative, good or bad, nature is just nature.
Yeah.
Because even these classifications, these categories of positive, negative, good or bad, it's just a anthropocentric view of the nature.
Yeah.
What is good, what is bad. For that worm that was eaten by a bird, it was bad for that worm that was killed. So.
But it was good for the nestlings of the birds.
Yeah. So, but it's it's hard to classify relationships.
Yeah, the big question is how do we accept this in our humanities? Because we don't want to take these examples and accept that we are like this. We want to say it's bad. We don't want to commit infanticide. If the child is malformed and we create that way anyway, And if someone wants to kill everyone who is not perfect, it's eugenicity, right?
No, yeah, of course. But
It's
I mean, it's just.
I think that's the challenge. How do we accept the nature in ourselves without maintaining the ethics, right? How do we do that?
And maybe we have to change the ethics.
Yeah.
And we have to change the environment, the humanities looking to the nature in good or bad, white and black.
It's very hard. It's very complex.
Perhaps this is the reason you came here to find Pablo.
Yeah.
Pablo will help.
Os amigos só that and yeah. This is very interesting. Makes us think about. Let's go. It's not here. No.
It's in the field.
Please, please.
Thinking about what in a society where we do haven't had equality, equality and social equality in many ways. In the sense, nature is not available for every human being. You know, especially in Brazil, but in other countries too. How can we merge this two?
Yeah, I totally understand what you are asking me. If you are looking on the level of needs, the environmental humanities is very high in the pyramid of needs. So in the beginning, you have to have a society that is settled down, and then start to look to the other relations to the nature in a kind of philosophical. So that's why even in Europe, in the East Europe, it's something new. So people were using the nature from a material way to survive and to stabilize the society. But in the same time, I think that even if it's a developing country, it's good to have this idea inside and to develop in the parallel. You know?
We search for some indicators of the sustainable development goals. All the papers I read, the SDG 10 that's related with equality is the worst situation around the world. So that's something related. Also asked about what is bad because we have competition between us, we have to be better. What's the best country performing SDG? We are also thinking. So this is something hard to create exactly how we progress as a society considering this.
Also, there are people who say that if we try to fix the social problem, then people will take care of the nature. So, because in society where the social problems are good, the people are protecting the nature. So it's not on the other way. We're coming in the trying to make people protect the nature, but we don't look at their social problem. And if they will fix their social problem, then by themselves they will take care of the nature because it's the next level.
It's very interesting. Do you know the wedding cake model of Humanities? Is the way to organize the SDGs and the not as the one beside each other. We need something like a basic condition, and then we can think about economic and
yes, like the pyramid of needs. Yeah.
But the base is not the social, it's the biosphere. So all the SDGs related with water and preserve extra life and marine life, they are the base. And when I present this figure for the first time, we should conserve nature because this will be us able to think about other challenges, the socio-economic challenges. And my colleague said, "Oh, I don't think that because I think it should as much as we can deal with the social challenge, we'll be able to think about nature conservation. Something make me think about
Ele pensa bem,
yeah.
question, is there any question there?
Just the second one.
A second one, Marina? Did
Yeah.
you-
Yeah.
Have you read it?
Yeah, I really think about that. And in Europe, they're starting now something like making using the parks and the urban forest like corridors to the cities and connecting the wild forest with the green corridors in the city. And for that, we need the urban ecology.
Is there anyone that would like to?
Just have a quick comment on what we were discussing. There, it's interesting to think exactly what is the consequence, right? Is it conserving nature that as a consequence leads to like better societies, more equal societies, and so on? Or is it the other way around? So is it like, okay, first, like what's the priority? And what determines what's the causal relationship between the two things? So I guess from what you're saying, from these perspectives of environmental humanities, it would be so first we take care of like humans in terms of like think about how they feel good, what makes them have a good life. So that would be like feelings towards nature, whatever, and also of course like good conditions, right, for living. And so for that, then as a consequence, they will also contribute to preserve nature. Is that how it is, or?
I think that human environmentalists see the same things in the same time. So they are going to help the society and the human needs, and also in the same time using helping the nature, and they make them go together. And that happens now in the East Europe, because in the West they use everything. And now we from Romania get in the European Union, and we still have a lot of forests. But now we start conserving all the forests. And it's a problem because it's like we can't use our resources to develop. But in the same time, they are trying to say, okay, look, we destroy all the forests. We don't have any more forests. It's not good what you're doing. If you try to develop on yourself, on your resources, then in the end it will be bad. Let's try now to find a solution to develop in the same time when you conserve the nature.
Here in Brazil, we have a joke that is, okay, we give up, let's give the Brazil back to the indigenous people, let's get out of here. Because that's it, there were 10 million people living in the Amazon. And where's the trace, where's the buildings, They were the nature. There's not this concept of, oh, it's so good to go to the nature.
Yeah.
To go to the nature is inside my house, And they exchanged with Incas, the Mexican tribes. There was international trades, It's a different kind of development that can correlate human necessities and not the greed. That's what they say now. What these great leaders we have today, indigenous leaders, say. The earth has plenty sufficient to cover all our needs, but not our greed. And that's what the white tribes came and teach here in the Americas and the rest of the world. Okay. 1 mais 20.
eu acho que é um tema que a gente poderia também ficar horas falando. It's a very, very challenging subject. But I think if we don't have any other questions from YouTube, and if we don't have any other questions, we can finish. And if someone wants to have lunch with can go to this program. Be more than welcome to. Obrigada, mãe.
Marina, Sacela, Gabriel, Mariana. Bye bye.